We're continuing from the 10th chapter. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. Namaste, Stevie G. One evening as I walked alone down a quiet side street in Kandahar, a small man with one eye and one arm grabbed me by the hand. Pulling me through an alley some distance, he yanked me down a winding stairway. It was pitch dark. As we descended the crude stone steps, I pondered the mysteries that might unfold. Once underground, I was pushed into a dark, chilly dungeon. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw a tarnished lantern shedding meager light. Its flame flickered on a crumbling stone ceiling and walls where cobwebs and iron chains hung ominously. There was not a single window or piece of furniture. On the dirt floor squatted a dozen barefoot old men in soiled, tattered robes and turbans. They were huddled around a shadowy mound. What could it be? As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw it was a mountain of Afghani black hashish, perhaps a couple 100 kilos. Back in Europe, I had been told this was among the most expensive and powerful hashish in the world. The poor old men were continuously tearing chunks from the mountain and forming palm-sized paddies for easy smuggling. My escort abandoned me to a corner as he joined the others in making hashish paddies. How strange, I thought. What am I doing here? I probably couldn't find my way out even if I tried. Someone then rose to his feet and lit a flaming torch. Like a high priest on procession to the altar, he marched to one side of the room. There stood what appeared to be the venerable deity, a massive hookah. The man proceeded to feed the giant mouth of the pipe with kilos of hashish and ceremoniously lit it with the torch. Just then, another man rose, approached the long, upward curving spout, and with all of his strength inhaled long and forcefully until his lungs filled to the brim. Then, removing his mouth from the spout, he exhaled, only to inhale another dose. Again and again, he forcefully sucked in great volumes of hashish smoke. It was beyond belief. Soon, on its own, a thick stream of smoke was gushing out of the spout, yet he kept puffing and puffing. It was superhuman. When he reached the point beyond even superhuman limits, his lungs revolted. Tumbling to the ground, he lurched uncontrollably, coughing so severely I expected his guts to come pouring out. Meanwhile, everyone else was nonchalantly rolling his hashish paddies. Then, the next man stepped up to the ominous hookah and repeated the same ritual. He sucked and sucked, perhaps 20 times. The smoke poured out of the spout, and finally, reaching the climax, he collapsed to the earthen floor. Tossing and turning, he too coughed incessantly. Everyone in the room repeated the same unbelievable spectacle. When he'd gained control of his coughing, each man would calmly join his brothers in making paddies while squatting around the hashish pile, giving way to the next victim of the hookah. Each man took his turn in rotation several times as the all-devouring hookah consumed kilo after kilo and smoker after smoker. These old Afghanis are certainly postgraduates in the art of getting high, I thought. In comparison, the proud hippies of the West are hardly toddlers in the nursery school. A dense cloud of hashish smoke hung in the airless dungeon. My eyes burned. Simply by breathing the air down there, I had become higher than ever before in my life. My turn had come. They pulled me up to the hookah. Was I to be the next sacrificial offering to their deity? A dense stream of hashish smoke was pouring out of the wide spout. How to approach it? I wobbled forward. I hadn't even reached the spout to begin sucking when the stream of smoke attacked my lungs like a serpent rushing into a mouse hole. To the ground I collapsed, rolling violently back and forth. Tears sprang from my eyes as I coughed so severely that I thought my lungs and throat would be ripped to shreds. Meanwhile, the veteran smokers slapped their knees, shook and howled with laughter. For here I was, a young American, 1/3 their age, and I couldn't even reach the spout. This was their nightly recreation, but it was too much for me. I crawled back into my corner, slumping against the wall. Rushes of energy paralyzed my every limb, while strange visions appeared in the immense cloud of smoke. All sound was a strange music, and my mind seemed to be whirling and whirling beyond time and space. I could not move, and there was no place to go. My eyes burned with tears. Hallucinating, I watched the billows of smoke rising from the hookah, taking the forms of ghostly demons coming to devour me. I reflected on the times I'd sought relief, happiness, or meaning through intoxication. What had I gained? My mind wandered back to the sight of the drug addicts and alcoholics I encountered on the skid rows of American cities. Acquaintances in college had succumbed to drugs, becoming helpless slaves to their addiction. I remembered a dear soul who went insane from too much LSD. An intelligent college student, she started chirping like a bird. Everyone was amused until she tried to fly out of a second-story window. A year later, she still believed she was a bird, but now chirped in the cage of a mental asylum. I too had at times sought peace through intoxicants. I was led to believe that chemical or herbal stimulants could induce higher spiritual perceptions, but I had quickly realized their limitations. It was an artificial state that drew me farther from my heart's longing. I had to move on. Swallowed by a cloud of torment in that hashish dungeon of Kandahar, a vow sprung from my heart. Dear Lord, I will never again indulge in intoxicants. I stumbled out of the room and onto the street, still reeling. One last evening in Kandahar, while in a dim, crowded tea stall, I squatted on the floor with the locals. Suddenly, everyone's attention focused on a blind boy who stumbled in carrying a rustic wooden instrument with a single string nailed across it. He was perhaps 16 years old, and like the others, wore soiled rags that loosely covered his emaciated body. My heart quaked. Nothing covered his blinded, disfigured eyes. Despite his extreme poverty, he smiled radiantly as he poured his heart into singing songs in praise of Almighty Allah as he thumped that one-stringed instrument. His sweet voice and sincere emotion hypnotized all 6 of us crowded in the tiny shack. An hour passed as the spontaneous joy of that blind boy lit up the room with a supernatural joy. He plucked upon his one string and cried in praise of God. I was moved. He was homeless, blind, illiterate, and poverty-stricken, yet even in his humbled state, he sang of the vast treasure of joy he had found within his heart, his love for God. Kandahar had been extraordinary. From a mongoose I had learned patience, from a den of hashish addicts, temperance, and from a blind boy, spiritual joy. Grateful for all I had learned in the city, I bade it farewell. That concludes the 10th chapter of the journey home. So thank you for listening with me. I look forward to starting the 11th chapter with you next time. If you want to reflect on these words with me, I'd be happy to. The simple, heartfelt devotion